Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, continuing our look at some masques by Ben Jonson. And today we're looking at the Hymenaei, or the Solemnities of Masque and Barriers at a Marriage. Usual things apply when I talk about masques, of which I know nothing about masques, really. I've got nothing. I'm a bog standard theatre guy, and my specialisation is primarily pre-17th century, so early 17th century masques. This is a journey of adventure for me, and I have very little to add. So this is a magical mystery tour that I'm interested in finding out where we go. We are in a longer text than the last time. We managed to squeeze 2 masques into one session, but this time we're only going to have a look at one, and we're going to dance through it, dancing around with these wonderful readers. Now, some people will have named parts, and some people will be... everyone's going to read prose at some point, the descriptive stuff and the sort of general Ben Jonson comments. So reading primarily prose today will be...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm prosaic today.
Today, Eric will be Ben Jonson. Reading Hymen today, as well as prose, is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading primarily reason today will be...
Hi, I'm Sarah Blake. I'm very reasonable.
Reading opinion and an angel and prose will be...
Hello, my name's Lynn Freitas. I'm a college composition teacher in the Northwestern United States.
Reading the personification of truth, as well as some prose, will be...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
And reading Epithalamion will be...
Briony, Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be occasionally reading bits and bobs as we go. So I'm going to throw Eric to the wolves and ask him to read the first really chunky bit of text until I tell him to stop. So wait until you hear the bell. Otherwise, this is your full-on Ben Jonson clearing his throat before we even get to anything that actually might have something to do with an actual show. So, let's find out what the Solemnities of Masque and Barriers at a Marriage is all about.
It is a noble and just advantage that the things subjected to understanding have of those which are objected to sense, that the one sort are but momentary and merely taking, the other impressing and lasting. Else the glory of all these solemnities had perished like a blaze and gone out in the beholder's eyes. So short-lived are the bodies of all things in comparison of their souls. And though bodies ofttimes have the ill luck to be sensually preferred, they find afterwards the good fortune, when souls live, to be utterly forgotten. This it is hath made the most royal princes and greatest persons, who are commonly the personages of these actions, not only studious of riches and magnificence in the outward celebration or show, which rightly becomes them, but curious after the most high and hearty inventions, to furnish the inward parts, and those grounded upon antiquity and solid learning, which, though their voice be taught to sound to present occasions, their sense should always lay on more removed mysteries. And howsoever some may squeamishly cry out that all endeavor of learning and sharpness in these transitory devices, especially when it steps beyond their little, or let me not wrong them, no brain at all, is superfluous, I am contented these fastidious stomachs should leave my full tables and enjoy at home their clean, empty trenchers, fittest for such airy tastes, where perhaps a few Italian herbs picked up and made into a salad may find sweeter acceptance than all the most nourishing and sound meats of the world. For these men's palates, let me not answer, O muses. It is not my fault if I fill them out nectar and they run to metheglin. Vaticana bibant si delectentur. All the courtesy I can do them is to cry again, prateriant si quid non facit ad stomachum. as I will from the thought of them to my better subject.
And there we'll pause before we actually get to details of the masque. There's some lovely turns of phrase in there, even if I'm sure most of us are going, huh? As to what on earth is going on. The bit in Latin there, they can drink crap wine if they insist, but all I can do is cry out to them again. You can if you like, but it probably upset your stomach. That's a rough translation. So a little bit of context. This is specifically created for a wedding, as the title Hymenaei will suggest. It's the 5th of January, 1606, according to the internet. I wouldn't trust the internet because one of the things I Googled said that this was a musical. A not wholly inaccurate description, but also not an accurate description. So this is for a specific occasion. It's not part of, say, general revels. It's more for the solemnizing of some people in wedlock. Any thoughts from the random verbiage that Ben Jonson was giving us? Eric, then Elizabeth.
I was lost until about, and learning in sharpness in these transitory devices, especially where it steps beyond their little, or let me not wrong them, no brain at all, is superfluous. I just enjoyed that line. I have no idea what the rest of it was about, but I mean,
I love the description about a few Italian herbs picked up and made into a salad. I mean, it's just such a lovely turn of phrase. Elizabeth, then Sarah, then Lynn.
That's what I was going to say, Rob. I love the whole bit about the salad and all the meats in the world. I just thought I was completely lost in the text until that bit.
Sarah, muted at present.
No, ditto. Ditto. It was like we got to the metaphor, we got to the food metaphors basically, and I woke up. But before then, I was just like, "What? I have no idea what's going on here."
Yeah. Which is legitimate. I think that's fine. Lynn, muted at present.
Yeah, a third person saying, yeah, I couldn't follow this until the very end. Yeah, syntax is really quite difficult to parse there at the beginning for something that was supposed to be spoken aloud, or maybe this is just the introduction for the printed version? I don't know. But here's Jonson. I mean, for writing for a sophisticated, an exclusive audience, still being kind of condescending towards his audience. He was sort of notorious for that. Like, if you don't think my play is funny, that's your fault. It's not that my play is not funny. The play was not funny. So you're just not smart enough or sophisticated enough to appreciate how awesome I am. Which is one thing when you're writing for the public theater, but it surprises me a little that he seems to sort of have that attitude. If my very rich fare makes you queasy, go home and eat a salad. Okay.
With some herbs.
Yeah.
Some herbs.
Yeah, and so yes, you're right. This is all literary throat clearing. This isn't performative text yet. We're about to get to some description of the actual performative text and actually some stuff that was actually performed. Rachael first.
I was going to ask if it's known or if anybody in the room knows whose wedding this was. Yeah, who is the target?
Well, the internet once again tells me that it's Robert Devereux, 3rd Earl of Essex, and Lady Frances Howard, daughter of the Earl of Suffolk.
Is that the one who killed his wife?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of it about, so who knows? Who knows? I'm really not up on the soap opera that is Court at this time. But I'm sure we can Google that. Get tapping away. Other search engines are available, and and see what we come up with. Once again, I can reasonably confirm that the sets are designed by Inigo Jones, and music seems to be once again Alfonso Ferrabosco, so who we have had previously. So that's nice. let's get into some text that's actually descriptive of a performance. So let's say, Briony, I'm going to give you the prose coming up for your delectation on horror. And Rachael, I'll ask you to read the song that follows, and then we'll go... then we'll briefly pause to see if we know where we are before we go into some really chunky text. So, yeah, description, Briony, please.
Where was it?
On the night of the masques.
On the night of the masques, which were two, one of men, the other of women, the scene being drawn, there was first discovered an altar upon which was inscribed in letters of gold, Ione, Oime, Mime, Unione, Sacer. To this altar entered 5 pages, attired in white, bearing the 5 tapers of virgin wax. Behind them, one representing a bridegroom, his hair short and bound with party-coloured ribbons and gold twist, his garments purple and white. On the other hand, entered Hymen, the god of marriage, in a saffron-coloured robe, his undervestures white, his socks yellow, a yellow veil of silk on his left arm, his head crowned with roses and marjoram, in his right hand a torch of pine tree. After him, a youth, attired in white, bearing another light of white thorn. Under his arm, a little wicker flasket shut. Behind him, 2 others in white, the one bearing a distaff, the other a spindle. Betwixt these, a personated bride, supported, her hair flowing and loose, sprinkled with grey. On her head, a garland of roses, like a turret, her garments white, and on her back, a wether's fleece hanging down. Her zone, or girdle, about her waist of white wool, fastened with the Herculean knot. In the midst went auspices, after them 2 that sung, in several coloured silks, of which one bore the water, the other the fire. Last of all the musicians, diversely attired, all crowned with roses, and with this song began.
And here we have a song.
Bid all profane away, none here may stay to view our mysteries, but who themselves have been or will in time be seen. The self-same sacrifice for union, mistress of these rites will be observed with eyes as simple as her nights.
Fly then, all profane away, fly far off as hath the day, night her curtain doth display, and this is Hymen's holiday. So yes, there's a chorus singing along there too. We've got some sock action. We always like some sock action. Descriptions of socks go down. There's lots of things where you sort of go, it sounds modern in the wrong way, of just when someone says party-coloured ribbons, immediately makes me feel like it's for a children's party. Lovely, which is not the intention there at all. Yes, we've got various images to do with marriage going on here. We've got a bridegroom, we've got a bride, we've got Hymen, god of marriage, popping in. We've got a written on an altar, we've got this isn't Juno great, Juno who presides over marriage kind of stuff being said there, which many people in the room would actually be able to read. And lots of detail of all these various people coming on. So, we've got all this display, we've got music. I don't know how much of this... was there any dancing? I don't think there's any dancing yet. It's more processy. Feels more like they're coming in and doing some singing, and it's all very formal. How are we feeling? How are we feeling about this so far? Rachael?
Just a little linguistic play on that unioni sacré. The what do you call it? The shortening the word sacred gives it makes it sound a little like the French sucre for sugar. So there's like a little play on words with the sacred union or a sugared or sweet union.
Other thoughts, Elizabeth, and then Sarah.
Speaking of a sweet union, was there not marjoram in the garland on Hymen? I thought that was really, really funny that they put marjoram in his hair.
Hyman's got all sorts of. I mean, there's so much detail here. We got saffron-coloured robe, his white, yellow socks, yellow veil on his left arm, and crowned with roses and marjoram in his right hand, torch of pine tree. I mean, there's so much detail there. And then, for all I know, there are also images that go with this. I don't know if there are or not. Again, Google may tell us. Sarah.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about the detail. I love Jonson's descriptions of costumes. I mean, he obviously, they were important to him, and I don't know how he worked with Jones, whether Jones came up with the design and he is just describing what he could see, or whether he gave Jones directions, which I don't know. I always seem to assume that he does, but it's just those little details, like, the bride she's not just got a garland of roses on her head, she's got a garland of roses like a turret. And her girdle is not just of white wool, it's white wool fastened with the Herculean knot. Don't get the wrong sort of knot, guys. It's really important. And this is what I love about his masks, because I mean, I am quite a visual person and I am interested in costume, but it's the fact that he goes into so much detail. It's clearly really important to him on some literary or symbolic level. And so it's just very interesting, I think, to kind of think about that from a contemporary point of view and work out how you would, do this now and what kind of what the effect would create as well, because it would be really quite something to see.
Yeah, and you wonder whether there's whether Ben Jonson is making that decision because there are symbolic values, or whether and then he argues with Inigo and others about but we've got this blue fabric. No, it has to be yellow, and there's a reason, man. Briony, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'd have driven myself mad wondering what colour Hyman's socks were.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a little trickle of information. So the bride and the groom, the real bride and the groom, I'm assuming that these are personations of them, and that the bride and groom are watching this. But they're 14 and the bride is 13 at the time of this marriage itself. Don't worry, they get separated for a few years, so don't worry. There's nothing dodgy going on here. It's just the form of marriage. There is more detail to come on this, but I'll sprinkle this out. You can Google it if you like. Rachael, again, I can't be certain this is all true, but it looks true.
The sensuality of the smells that are coming, not just the roses and but the pine tree, the smell of pine, but also that the pine is like an evergreen tree, so the symbol of perhaps everlasting love or constancy that comes from that.
Yes, absolutely. Other thoughts? Anyone wants to throw in at this juncture before we dive further into the text? Because no one's really said anything. We've had some singing and some description, and see where we go. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was wondering, this is like a child bride situation, isn't it? But Jonson doesn't make any reference to the youth of the bride as such. She's just so I was just thinking maybe 13 was like quite a normal age to be married at the time.
It's the kind of marriage where they're married for political and dynastic reasons, but they're not going to consummate it anytime soon.
Okay.
So there will be, and it's not common for most people. Most people get married much later in time.
Okay.
Right.
Mainly because if you do consummate marriage at this age, then the childbirth implications are not good. They do understand biology well enough to know that is not a good strategy, and that's really quite dodgy. I mean, it's still dodgy. You've got these dynastic marriages going on. It's not necessarily going to lead to happy marriages. But they are aware that they're going to be separated now for a few years before they actually get together later in life.
Yeah,
Lynn.
Although, it was not customary for these very youthful dynastic marriages to be consummated right away, but it happened occasionally. Henry VII's mother was like 13 when he was born, so. And so it may have been that Henry VII's father knew he was dying because he was dead before his son was born. So it's like, I know she's only like not quite 13 years old, but I'm going to consummate this marriage so that I can have a son. I don't know, but occasionally, that the protocol was violated and a very, very youthful bride was impregnated. Happened.
Anyway, we will move on and see where this goes. We're going to have some dialogue from Hymen and Reason as well, and I will ask who hasn't done anything for a bit yet. Eric again. I'll ask Eric again if you can do the reading of the various bits of prose that occur in between the dialogue before things move forward, and then we'll see where we go. So, Eric, if we can go from the song being ended, for the song has indeed just ended.
The song being ended, Hymen presented himself foremost, and after some sign of admiration began to speak.
What more than usual light, throughout the place extended, makes Juno's fane so bright? Is there some greater deity descended? Or reign on earth those powers so rich as with their beams grace union more than ours, and bound her influence in their happier streams? 'Tis so, this same is he, the king and prince of and priest of peace, and that his empress, she, that sits so crowned with her own increase. Oh, you, whose better blisses have proved the strict embrace of union with chaste kisses, and seen it flow so in your happy race, that know how well it binds the fighting seeds of things, wins nature's, sexes, minds, and every discord in true music brings. Sit now propitious aids to rights so duly prized, and view two noble maids of different sex to union sacrificed, in honour of that blessed estate which all good minds should celebrate.
Here, out of a microcosm, or a globe figuring man with a kind of contentious music, issued forth the first masque of 8 men. These represented the 4 humours and 4 affections, all gloriously attired, distinguished only by their several ensigns and colours, and dancing out on the stage in their return at the end of their dance, drew all their swords, offered to encompass the altar and disturb the ceremonies, at which Hymen troubled spake.
Save the virgins, keep your hallowed lights untouched, and with their flame defend our rights. The 4 untempered humours are broke out, and with their wild affections go about to ravish all religion. If there be a power like reason left in that huge body, or little world of man from whence these came, look forth, and with thy bright and numerous flame instruct their darkness, make them know and see, in wronging these they have rebelled 'gainst thee.
Hereat, reason, seated in the top of the globe, as in the brain or highest part of man, figured in a venerable personage, her hair white and trailing to her waist, crowned with light, her garments blue and semined with stars, girded unto her with a white band, filled with arithmetical figures, in one hand bearing a lamp and the other a bright sword, descended and spake.
Forbear your rude attempt. What ignorance could yield you so profane as to advance one thought in act against these mysteries? Are unions orgies of so slender price? She that makes souls with bodies mix in love, contracts the world in one, and therein Jove is spring and end of all things, yet most strange. Herself nor suffers spring, nor end, nor change. No wonder they were you that were so bold, for none but humours and affections would have dared so rash a venture. You will say it was your zeal that gave your powers the sway, and urged the masked and disguised pretence of saving blood and succouring innocence. So want of knowledge still begetteth jars, when humorous earthlings will control the stars. Inform yourselves with safer reverence to these mysterious rites, whose mystic sense, reason, which all things but itself confounds, shall clear unto you from the authentic grounds.
At this, the humours and affections sheathed their swords and retired amazed to the sides of the stage, while Hymen began to rank the persons and order the ceremonies, and reason proceeded to speak.
The pair which do each other side, though yet some space doth them divide, this happy night must both make one, blessed sacrifice to union. Nor is this altar but a sign of one more soft and more divine. The genial bed, where Hymen keeps the solemn orgies void of sleeps, and wildest Cupid, waking, hovers with adoration twixt the lovers. The teed of white and blooming thorn in token of increase is borne, and also with the ominous light to fright all malice from the night. Like are the fire and water set, that even as moisture mixed with heat helps every natural birth to life, so for their race join man and wife. The blushing veil shows shamefactness, the ingenious virgin should profess at meeting with the man, her hair that flows so liberal and so fair is shed with grey, to imitate she entereth to a matron's state, for which those utensils are born, and that she would not labour scorn, herself a snowy fleece doth wear, and these her rock and spindle bear, to show that nothing, which is good, gives check unto the highest blood. The zona of wool about her waist, which in contrary circles cast, doth meet in one strong knot, that binds, tells you, so should all married minds. And lastly, these 5 waxen lights imply perfection in the rites, for 5 the special number is, whence hallowed union claims her bliss, as being all the sum that grows from the united strengths of those which male and female numbers we do style, and are first 2 and 3. Which joined thus you cannot sever in equal parts, but one will ever remain as common. So we see the binding force of unity, for which alone the peaceful gods in number always love the odds, and even parts as much despise, since out of them all discords rise.
And Lynn, could you take up the next bit of prose for us, please?
Okay. Here, the upper part of the scene, which was all clouds and made artificially to swell and ride like the rack, began to open. And the air clearing, in the top thereof was discovered Juno, sitting in a throne supported by 2 beautiful peacocks. Her rich attire, and like a queen, a white diadem on her head, from whence descended a veil, and that bound with a fascia of several colored silks, set with all sorts of jewels, and raised in the top with lilies and roses. In her right hand she held a scepter, in the other a timbrel, and at her golden feet the hide of a lion was placed. Round about her sat the spirits of the air in several colors, making music. Above her, the region of fire, with a continual motion, was seen to swirl circularly, and Jupiter, standing in the top, figuring the heaven, brandishing his thunder. Beneath her, the rainbow iris, and on the 2 sides, 8 ladies, attired richly, and alike in the most celestial colors, who represented her powers. And she is the governess of marriage and made the second masque, all which, upon the discovery, reason made narration of.
But we'll come to the second masque in just a moment, because I think we should just briefly unpack all that's going on there. So we've got, a giant globe, reason sat on top of it, out of which comes 8 dancing men. And they do some dancing stuff, and there's a bit of a sort of I don't know if they do a sword fight per se, but they will be waggling them about in some fashion, because they sheathe them. They sheathe their swords. I'm not suggesting for a second that is in any way symbolic in a marriage context, but I'm pretty certain it probably is. And Reason gets to do some speechifying. Hymen has got to do some speechifying. But we have this massive globe thing, and then once all that's done with, the upper part of the scene, all clouds, which are artificially made to swell. So we've got swirly moving stage stuff, mechanics going on presumably, and Juno turns up and gets 8 ladies. So we've got 8 dancing men, and now I presume these are dancing ladies, who are going to do the second masque. So the first masque is dancing men, second masque seems to be dancing ladies. Thoughts in the room about the speeches of Hymen or Reason, or the stuff going on? Rachael first.
Mine is just a sort of gardening question. Are lilies and roses, are they native to the UK, or are these imported flowers?
I would have thought they're fairly embedded by now. Sarah, I mean, what is a native to these days? But I would have thought at the time they're about. Sarah.
They were native by this time. They both came originally from China, I think, although someone will probably correct me on YouTube. But they were certainly both native to the UK by this point.
Mm. Yeah, they're certainly easy enough to get hold of. So we've got 4 humours and 4 affections, all gloriously attired. Eric, were you wanting to?
I was just gonna say the roses, because there's different types of roses. There's old English roses that exist now that are basically considered to be traced back to like a specific era in history, like genetically. I mean, not they're not that old. You get sort of different varieties, the sort of obviously, if this was a royal marriage or like some sort of noble marriage, they would have had sort of very high status gardeners as well. I'm guessing sort of cross-breeding various flowers, especially for this kind of thing.
We can assume that they didn't stint and cost. Let's just say that. I think that's no expense not spent. Briony.
I like how abstract some of the descriptions got, in terms of, like, at the start we had with Hymen, we have a really nice, understandable, easy to recreate description of what Hymen's wearing, down to his yellow socks. And then it's things like, crowned with light. cool, I'll just bob a light crown on her head then. You know, it's not quite as yellow socks. I presume, would they have had like candles or something, like a headdress with candles on it? How do you think they'd have done a crown of light?
Or something very reflective that there are just about lighting effects that might be able to project light in a reasonable way. I mean, they have absolute control over the space, so it's really. Sorry, just read the chat there. Thank you, Sarah. The Blue Peter Advent crown. Tinsel and a few candles.
On a coat hanger.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
God, fire hazard or what? They still allowed to do that for Blue Peter because, you know, I always thought it was horribly dangerous in the 80s, let alone now. Anyway, no health and safety in the 17th century. It's fine. You can burn your head to your heart's content. Reason, again, several people have white hair. I've noticed a lot of white hair going on here. I'm wondering if that has a significance of which I am not familiar with. I like descriptions of Hymen. After some sign of admiration began to speak. I'm wondering what the sign of admiration is. It's like the other day when we were reading about the dog shrugging with the shrugging joy or something. It's just sometimes how do you interpret what these things mean? Is there a specific gesture that means admiration that you can be taught, or is that more just a generic thing? Any more about things not to do with children's television from the 1980s? Elizabeth.
I think we made it through the first masque pretty quickly because I was just like, we're moving to the second masque already. We've barely had the dancing men in the spandex and the dancing ladies that match them, which someone said in the chat reminded them of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which made me really laugh. And we're moving into the second masque, and I was wondering if this had a different title to the first one.
I think it's one of those loosely used terms in the sense that we talk about the masque overall being the event, but also individually you have the different movements of the masque. So we have masque number 1, which is this dance. So it's referring to the dance bit. So It's a masque within the masque, and we may get 20 masques as well yet if we're very unlucky. So it's still the same event, but it's using the term in a slightly slippery way. It's like the term pageant. Oh God, don't get me started. Medieval usage of the word pageant is so annoying. Use it for anything. No idea what we're talking about at any given time. Anyway, that's my problem, not yours. So let's read on. Let's gather a little more data and see where we're going. So we've got to Reason's about to do some more narration as we go to the second masque of Dancing Ladies by the looks of it. Reason remains the same. Rachel's still down for songs. I'll ask Briony if you can read the prose that turns up coming up. It's all right. Reason speaks first. I think you have a little pausette. So Reason has been cued in. Upon the discovery of all these dancing ladies, the powers, you get to speak.
And see, where Juno, whose great name is Unio in the anagram, displays her glistering state and chair as she enlightened all the air. Hark how the charming tunes do beat in sacred concords about her seat, and lo, to grace what these intend, 8 of her noblest powers descend, which are instilled her faculties, that govern nuptial mysteries, and wear those masks before their faces, lest dazzling mortals with their graces, as they approach them, all mankind should be, like Cupid, strucken blind. These order waits for on the ground to keep, that you should not confound their measured steps, which only move about the harmonious sphere of love.
Their descent was made in two great clouds that put forth themselves severally, and, with one measure of time, were seen to stoop and fall gently down upon the earth. The manner of their habits came after some statues of Juno, no less airy than glorious. The dressings of their heads rare, so likewise of their feet, and all full of splendour, sovereignty, and riches. Whilst they were descending, this song was sung at the altar.
These are they whom humor and affection must obey, who come to deck the genial bower and bring with them the grateful hour that crowns such meetings and excites the married pair to fresh delights, as courtings, kissings, coyings, oaths, and vows, soft whispers, embraces, all the joys and melting toys that chaster love allows. Haste, haste, for Hesperus his head down bows.
The song ended, they danced forth in pairs, and each pair with a varied and noble grace, to a rare and full music of 12 lutes, led on by Order, the servant of reason, who was there rather a person of ceremony than use. His undergarment was blue, his upper white, and painted full of arithmetical and geometrical figures. His hair and beard long, a star on his forehead, and in his hand a geometrical staff, to whom, after the dance, reason spake.
Convey them, Order, to their places, and rank them so in several traces, as they may set their mixed powers unto the music of the hours. And these, by joining with them, know, in better temper, how to flow. Whilst I, from their abstracted names, report the virtues of the dames. First Curis comes to deck the bride's fair tress. Care of the ointments Eunyxia doth profess, Euga her office to make one of twain. Gamaliel sees that they should so remain. Fair Itaduca leads the bride her way, and Demidica home her steps doth stay. Zinxia the maid quit of her Zona defends. Talia for Hymen perfects all and ends.
By this time, the ladies were paired with the men, and the whole 16 ranked forth in order to dance, and were with the song provoked.
Now, begin to set your spirits in active heat, and since your hands are meet, instruct your nimble feet in motions swift and meet, the happy ground to beat.
Whilst all this roof doth ring, and every discord string, with every varied voice, in union doth rejoice.
Here they danced forth a most neat and curious measure, full of subtlety and device, which was so excellently performed as it seemed to take away that spirit from the invention, which the invention gave to it, and left it doubtful whether the forms flowed more perfectly from the author's brain or their feet. The strains were all notably different, some of them formed into letters, very signifying to the name of the bridegroom, and ended in a manner of a chain, linking hands, to which this was spoken.
Such was the golden chain let down from heaven, and not those links more even than these, so sweetly tempered, so combined, by union and refined. Here no contention, envy, grief, deceit, fear, jealousy have weight, but all is peace and love and faith and bliss. What harmony like this? The gall behind the altar quite is thrown, this sacrifice hath none. Now no affections rage nor humours swell, but all composed dwell. O Juno, Hymen, Hymen, Juno, who can merit with you two? Without your presence, Venus can do naught, save what with shame is bought. No father can himself a parent show, nor any house with prosperous issue grow. Oh, then, what deities will dare with Hymen or with Juno to compare?
The speech being ended, they dissolved and all took forth other persons, men and women, to dance other measures, galliards and corantos, the whilst this song importuned them to a fit remembrance of the time.
Think yet how night doth wast, how much of time is past. What more than winged haste yourselves would take, if you were but to taste the joy the night doth caste? Oh, might it ever last on this bright virgin and her happy make?
Their dances yet lasting, they were the second time importuned by speech.
See, see, the bright Idalian star that lighteth lovers to their war complains that you her influence lose, while thus the night sports you abuse.
The longing bridegroom in the porch shews you again the baited torch, and thrice hath Juno mixed her ire with fire to summon your repair.
See, now she clean withdraws her light, and, as you should, gives place to night, that spreads her broad and blackest wing upon the world, and comes to bring 1,000 several coloured loves, some like sparrows, some like doves, that hop about the nuptial room, and fluttering there against you come, warm the chaste bower which Cypria strews, with many a lily, many a rose.
Haste, therefore, haste, and call away. The gentle night is pressed to pay the usury of long delights she owes to these protracted rites.
At this, the whole scene being drawn again and all covered with clouds as a night, they left off their intermixed dances and returned to their first places where, as they were but beginning to move, this song, the third time, urged them.
Oh, no to end as to begin. A minute's loss in love is sin. These humours will the night outwear in their own pastimes here. You do our rights much wrong in seeking to prolong these outward pleasures. The night hath other treasures than these, though long concealed ere day to be revealed. Then know to end as to begin. A minute's loss in love is sin.
Here they danced their last dance, full of excellent delight and change, and in their latter strain fell into a fair orb or circle, reason standing in the midst and speaking.
Here stay, and let your sports be crowned. The perfect figure is the round, nor fell you in it by adventure, when reason was your guide and centre. This that beauteous ceston is, of lovers' many-coloured bliss. Come, Hymen, make an inner ring, and let the sacrifices sing. Cheer up the faint and trembling bride, that quakes to touch her bridegroom's side. Tell her what Juno is to Jove, the same shall be to her love, his wife, which we do rather measure a name of dignity than pleasure. Up, youths, hold up your lights in air, and shake abroad their flaming hair. Now move united, and, in gait, as you in pairs do front the state, with grateful honours thank his grace, that hath so glorified the place. And as in circle you depart, linked hand in hand, so heart in heart, may all those bodies still remain, whom he, with so much sacred pain, no less hath bound within his realms than they are with the ocean streams. Long may his union find increase, as he to ours hath deigned his peace.
And with this, to a soft strain of music, they paced about once in their ring, every pair making their honours, as they came before the state, and then dissolving went down in couples, led on by Hymen, the bride, and auspices following, as to the nuptial bower. And there we'll pause. So I think we're all starting to remember now how this form works. So we get someone sort of turning up, introducing what's going on. Some sets of dancers turn up, probably ladies. Some sets of men turn up. They get to do a dance as well. They're so probably men. And then what happens next? They dance together, and as Ben Jonson possibly lies, says that they are the best dancers ever. It's like you can't figure out between their brain and their limbs. I mean, how they do it, they were just so amazing. It was just, you had to be there. Yeah, I'm sure it was like that, Ben. Sure it was that good. I mean, I'm sure actually many people at court are really good at dancing because they probably don't do that much else. But this bit of a shriek. And yeah, so we then having done that, we get a little bit more dialogue in between. We get songs as they do the dancing, and then effectively we get an encore. It's like they've done it once. And it's like the way it seems to say, they return to their places. Everyone's a bit knackered. No, do it again. They do all the dancing again. So and they do their last one, and that's leading to the nuptial bower. So it's the idea that having done all this wonderful frenetic dancing, that they're now moving on to what happens after a wedding, at least symbolically, as it were. So yeah. Getting sense of the shape again, remembering how these things work. It's all about the singing and the dancing. Sod the speeches. It's actually that's irrelevant. It's all about the song and dance. Thoughts from the room. I found lovely things. I fascinating things in this. I like the song provoking people to dance. I think that's a fascinating way of speaking about dancing. I had to dance. It provoked me. Rachael then Briony, I think.
Just questions about, some of the symbolism of the, the parts in this. What is the significance of blue in weddings again? I understand the white and I understand the red. And then also, what is an Idalian star?
Oh, these are excellent questions, which I have no idea the answers to. But they're good questions. They're excellent questions. Sarah, do you have any answers to that?
I have no firm answers. I can only speculate, but I'm wondering if the blue... blue was the colour that was traditionally associated with the Virgin Mary. And, she was the bride of Christ. So I wonder if there's maybe that's where the blue comes from. I mean, also blue was a very expensive colour. To have like a blue dye was kind of, it was a sign of wealth and status. But beyond that, I don't know.
Yes, because we are talking about a rite where we're going from being, virginity to a consummation. So there might be a logic there. Isn't blue, the blue is the description of order I really liked, led on by order, servant of reason, who there's blue, but he's got painted full of arithmetical and geometrical figures. That costume description was great. I'm just going. It's basically Dumbledore wanders on, and it's just.
Just after your Sudoku comment in the chat as well, I was just like, no, this is too much.
Yeah, Jonson throws in, yes, is unio in the anagram, and I'm going, yeah, which is, do you know, if you change the I to the J as you would, yeah, you're right, absolutely, it's an anagram, but yeah, it's like, you just toss that one in. It's like, anyone paying attention to the speeches? Probably not. Sarah.
I was also really intrigued by all these ridiculous women's names that I had to read out. Like, maybe I'm showing my ignorance here, but I have never come across any of them. Like, I didn't recognize these that they're not the muses, they're not the virtues, as far as I'm aware. You know, you had Yuga and Gamaliel and Cynthia, is that Cynthia, maybe? Cynthia the maid? I thought that might be Diana, maybe, under her Cynthia guise. But a lot of these names, they were not familiar to me at all. And I'm like, where are these coming from? Where has he got these names from?
I'm looking to see. There should be some notes on that, actually, but I cannot actually find them.
I mean, Talia could be Talia, the muse, but then Cynthia's a god, not a muse, so it just seems to be a bit of a random mishmash.
Yeah, I've got notes of, you know, Unxia Anointer and things to do with being guides and to bring you home and things like that. But I don't have specifically helpful notes as to what the hell's going on there. I don't think they're parallels, because I think Jonson would just use their names.
Yeah. So has he made them up then? Do they come from anywhere?
I genuinely don't
know how accurate this is, but I've just found something that says Unxia is a surname of Juno in Roman mythology and was the goddess of anointing.
Yeah, I've got anointed.
Got them from somewhere. He's got them from somewhere.
Yeah.
He's demonstrating his learning again. He's found an obscure term. Sorry, Briony.
Just the song seemed a bit contradictory to me. Like get pregnant, don't have sex. I don't know. It just seemed a bit. The last one that was something about a minute lost in love is a sin or something. Like what? But the song before that was all about pregnancy and just like what?
Yeah, interesting. Again, I've got nothing to come back with. You know, it's, Lynn.
I was interpreting that minute lost. Well, the punctuation is original, yes. Mm-hmm. A minute's loss in love is sin. So I was interpreting that to mean wasting time, not making love is a crime.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shame to just waste any time getting to the main event, as it were.
But that is still quite contradictory, because they are literally doing a musical number about how just go and have sex now. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to not be having sex is sin. I think that's the thing. Get on with it.
Yeah. But then we're going to present this masque that takes basically all afternoon or evening.
Because it says the masque is a sin, surely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've got all these various men and women dancing around, and of course, I didn't say, you know, not only do we have the men and the women from within the masque, they then ask the audience basically to get up and join them. So we have, you know, we don't know how long that bit goes on for. Actually, you know, this could be, you know, ages of dancing going on. Because it's basically, and now the audience interaction sequence. It's the first dance by bride and groom, in the middle of potentially in the middle of this. So it's not just the sort of the primary figures here. We've got everybody in the room is invited to join in. Who's next? Rachael.
To order. About order. Wasn't reason on a globe or something at some point, or there was some depiction of a globe? Yeah. I think order is that globe personified, you know, like the spheres or something, and that's the reason for these arithmetical and geometrical figures. And the star on the forehead might be that Idalian star, or maybe it's, you know, the morning star, Venus, like the beginning of love, the first, star like shows up in the morning or something like that.
Well, it's interesting as we sort of think back to earlier Tudor material, where we've got reason and we've got someone a bit like order, and we've got globes and things being demonstrated in some of the morality plays that we've done. So that it does sort of touch back on earlier, quite court-based material as well, actually. So there's maybe a continuity there.
Yeah, like one more thing, like maybe a heavenly ordination sort of thing. That reason, I don't know, has a hold of.
Yeah, all these various symbolic figures that are coming in and doing symbolic things. Okay. Any more? Otherwise, we're going to dive into a short speech or 12. There's some quite short bits coming up. He lied. So broadly speaking, what I'm going to say is obviously Briony's up next for the super long speech. It's nice and short. And then we've got a lot of chunky prose. So what I'm basically going to say is I'll ring the bell every so often and ring the changes. I'll ask Elizabeth to be first up with prose after the speech. I'll read the first bit of prose leading into Epithalamion. And then Elizabeth, you can take over after that, and then I'll ring the bell and ring the changes as we go, because as I say, a lot of description to get to the end of the Masque before we go into part 2 of material. So let's finish this evening's entertainment. After them, the musicians with the song, of which then only one staff was sung, but because I made it both in form and matter to emulate that kind of poem which was called Epithalamium, and by the ancients used to be sung when the bride was led into a chamber. Listen to me and my classical learning. Sorry. Led into the chamber, I have here set it down whole, and do heartily forgive their ignorance, whom it chanced not to please. So basically, sorry, just pausing mid-flow myself. Only one staff was sung of this, and obviously some people didn't like it. But I'm going to I wrote all of it, so I'm going to print it here. Lovely shade from Ben Jonson there, Briony.
If you don't like my song, you're stupid.
Yeah. It's your fault you don't get it. It's your fault, not mine.
Oh.
I'll forgive your ignorance.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Oh.
Well, yeah, Jonson. Yeah, well, Jonson was not formally educated. He was an autodidact. He was one of the most learned men in England of his age, but he was self-taught. And I think maybe he was a little insecure about it. He didn't have a university degree. He educated himself. So he's always pounding on that. Look how smart I am. Look how educated I am. Look how erudite I am. Yeah, Ben, we get it.
Yeah, it's in a slightly different way. It's like if you've ever tried to read Charlie Chaplin's autobiography, because he was an autodidact, he basically just read the dictionary every night, and he uses the strangest selection of words. It is weirdly unreadable in passages because there's a compensation thing going on there that it's just going. This is not English as we know it. It's a fascinating document.
So he understood denotation, but he didn't understand connotation.
Yeah.
So he did, like, I do this with my students sometimes. I'm like, beware the thesaurus, because you want to, if you're writing about people who are financially disadvantaged and you don't want to keep using the word poor, you find the word impecunious in the thesaurus, and you don't realize that it has a condescending valence to it, and you might undermine your own
Point.
Your own meaning.
Anyway, we got a fair amount of text to get through. I apologise for that minor digression. He concludes with a bit of Latin because, that's always good. Hoping that Nemo doctus me ebu et Thessalonium verbis dexere non Thessalonis, which broadly translates as no man of learning will order me to write a wedding song in words that aren't suited to weddings. So there. Anyway, here is the bit that he wrote that probably wasn't fully performed.
Glad time is at his point arrived, for which lovers' hopes were so long lived. Lead, Hymen, lead away, and let no object stay, nor banquets but sweet kisses, the turtles from their blisses. 'Tis Cupid calls to arm, and this his last alarm. Shrink not, soft virgin, you will love anon what you so fear to prove, which is no killing war, to which you pressed are, but fair and gentle strife, which lovers call their life. 'Tis Cupid cries to arm, and this his last alarm. Help, youths and virgins, help to sing the prize which Hymen here doth bring, and did so lately wrap from forth the mother's lap, to place her by that side where she must long abide. On Hymen, Hymen call, this night is Hymen's all. See, Hesperus is yet in view. What star can so deserve of you, whose light doth still adorn your bride, that ere the morn shall far more perfect be, and rise as bright as he, when like to him her name is changed, but not her flame. Haste, tender lady and adventure, the covetous house would have you enter, that it might wealthy be, and you her mistress see. Haste your own good to meet, and lift your golden feet above the threshold high, with prosperous augury. Now, youths, let go your pretty arms, the place within chants other charms, whose showers of roses flow, and violets seem to grow, strewed in the chamber there, as Venus mead it were. On Hymen, Hymen call, this night is Hymen's all. Good matrons that so well are known to aged husbands of your own, place you our bride tonight, and snatch away the light, that she not hide it dead beneath her spouse's bed, nor he reserve the same to help the funeral flame. So now you may admit him in, the act he covets is no sin, but chaste and holy love, which Hymen doth approve, without whose hallowing fires all aims are base desires. On Hymen, Hymen call, this night is Hymen's all. Now free from vulgar spite or noise, may you enjoy your mutual joys. Now you no fear controls, but lips may mingle souls, and soft embraces bind to each the other's mind, which may no power untie, till one or both must die. And look, before you yield to slumber, that your delights be drawn past number. Joys got with strife increase, affect no sleepy peace, but keep the bride's fair eyes awake with her own cries, which are but maiden fears, and kisses dry such tears. Then coin them twixt your lips so sweet, and let not cockles closer meet, nor may your murmuring loves be drowned by cypress doves. Yet let ivy not so bind, as when your arms are twined, that you may both ere day rise perfect every way. And Juno, whose great powers protect the marriage bed with good effect, the labour of this night bless thou for future light, and thou thy happy charge, glad Genius enlarge, that they may both ere day rise perfect every way. And Venus, thou with timely seed, which may thereafter comforts breed, inform the gentle womb, nor let it prove a tomb. But ere 10 moons be wasted, the birth by Cynthia hasted, so may they both ere day rise perfect every way. And when the babe to light is shown, let it be like each parent known, much of the father's face, more of the mother's grace, and either grandsire's spirit, and fame let it inherit, that men may bless the embraces that joined to such races. Cease, youths and virgins, you have done, shut fast the door, and as they soon to their perfection haste, so may their ardours last. So either strength outlive, or loss that age can give, and thou, full years be told, their forms grow slowly old.
Hitherto extended the first night's solemnity, whose grace in the execution left not where to add unto it, with wishing, I mean, nor do I court them, in those that sustain the nobler parts, such was the exquisite performance as, beside the pomp, splendour, or what we may call appareling of such presentments, that alone, had all else been absent, was of power to surprise with delight, and steal away the spectators from themselves. Nor was there wanting whatsoever might give to the furniture or compliment, either in riches or strangeness of the habits, delicacy of dances, magnificence of the scene, or divine rapture of music. Only the envy was that it lasted not still, or, now it is past, cannot by imagination, much less description, be recovered to a part of that spirit it had in the gliding by. Yet, that I may not utterly defraud the reader of his hope, I am drawn to give it those brief touches, which may leave behind some shadow of what it was. And first of the attires, that of the lords had part of it, for the fashion, taken from the antique Greek statue, mixed with some modern additions, which made it both graceful and strange.
And there's more description of costumes to come. I'll ask Sarah to describe the after-show party, which is seem to be where we are now.
On their heads they wore Persic crowns that were with scrolls of gold plate turned outward and wreathed about with a carnation and silver netlawn, at one end of which hung carelessly on the left shoulder, the other was tricked up before in several degrees of folds between the plates, and set with rich jewels and great pearl. Their bodies were of carnation cloth of silver, richly wrought, and cut to express the naked in manner of the Greek thorax, girt under the breast with a broad belt of cloth of gold, embroidered and fastened before with jewels. Their lapels were of white cloth of silver, laced and wrought curiously between, suitable to the upper half of their sleeves, whose nether parts, with their bases, were of watchet cloth of silver, chevroned all over with lace. Their mantles were of several coloured silks, distinguishing their qualities as they were coupled in pairs, the first sky colour, the second pearl colour, the third flame colour, the fourth tawny, and these cut in leaves, which were subtly tacked up and embroidered with ooze, and between every rank of leaves a broad silver lace. They were fastened on the right shoulder and fell compass down the back in gracious folds, and were again tied with a round knot to the fastening of their swords. Upon their legs they wore silver greaves, answering in work to their lapels, and these were their accoutrements. The ladies' attire was wholly new for the invention, and full of glory, as having in it the most true impression of a celestial figure. The upper part of white cloth of silver, wrought with Juno's birds and fruits, a loose undergarment, full gathered, of carnation striped with silver, and parted with a golden zona. Beneath that, another flowing garment of watchet cloth of silver, laced with gold, through all which, though they were round and swelling, there yet appeared some touch of their delicate lineaments, preserving the sweetness of proportion and expressing itself beyond expression. The attire of their heads did answer, if not exceed, their hair being carelessly, but yet with more art than it more affected, bound under the circle of a rare and rich coronet, adorned with all variety and choice of jewels, from the top of which flowed a transparent veil down to the ground, whose verge, returning up, was fastened to either side in a most sprightly manner. Their shoes were azure and gold, set with rubies and diamonds, so were all their garments, and every part abounding in ornament.
We'll pass over to Lynn for some more costume description-iness.
No less to be admired for the grace and greatness was the whole machine of the spectacle from whence they came, the first part of which was a microcosmos, or globe, filled with countries, and those gilded. where the sea was expressed, heightened with silver waves. This stood, or rather hung, for no axle was seen to support it, and turning softly, discovered the first masque, as we have before, but too runningly declared, which was of the men, sitting in fair composition within a mine of several metals, to which the lights were so pleased as no one was the lights were so placed as no one was seen, but seemed as if only reason within the splendor of the crown illumined the whole grot. On the sides of this, where began the other part, were placed two great statues, feigned of gold, one of Atlas, the other of Hercules, in varied postures, bearing up the clouds, which were of relief, embossed and translucent as naturals. To these a cortine of painted clouds joined, which reached to the utmost roof of the hall, and suddenly opening, revealed the three regions of air, in the highest of which sat Juno in a glorious throne of gold, circled with comets and fiery meteors, engendered in that hot and dry region. Her feet reaching to the lowest, where was made a rainbow, and within it musicians seated, figuring airy spirits, their habits various, and resembling the several colors caused in that part of the air by reflection. In the midst of all the dark and condensed clouds, as being the proper place where rain, hail, and other watery meteors are made, out of which two concave clouds from the rest thrust forth themselves in nature of those nimbi wherein by Homer, Virgil, etc. the gods are fain to descend. And these carried the 8 ladies over the heads of the 2 terms, who, as the engine moved, seemed also to bow themselves by virtue of their shadows and discharge their shoulders of their glorious burden, when, having set them on the earth, both they and the clouds gathered themselves up again, and with some rapture of the beholders. But that which, as above in place, so in beauty, was most taking in the spectacle, was the sphere of fire in the top of all, encompassing the air, and imitated with such art and industry as the spectators might discern the motion all the time that shows lasted, without any mover, and that so swift as no eye could distinguish any color of the light, but might form to itself 500 several hues out of the translucent body of the air objected betwixt it and them. And this was crowned with the statue of Jupiter, the Thunderer.
And that, broadly speaking, covers the admin side of what the show was like. So we've had effectively the closing of the event with the lengthy song, of which they only sung a bit. But Briony got the joy of doing all of it, uncut and unexpurgated. And then we get sort of general description of what the event overall was like. And which sort of read like the after show party, really. But it's part of it. The display of all the costumes, all the stuff everyone got to wear, and how fabulous they looked. And then a further description of the set. How does the globe? You couldn't see how it was supported. You couldn't see all the mechanics. It was really well made. It was great. There were clouds, and then some description. I'm really interested that the lights were so placed. So that you could only see Reason. So, it's like Reason had a spotlight, but everyone else was in darkness. And so, I'm really interested in, it probably wasn't literally that. It was probably there were just candles arranged around, as we were discussing earlier, not quite the Advent crown. But, there's all sorts of stuff about how this functioned. It's somewhere between the Met Gala and all sorts of other sort of ridiculously expensive events that exist out in the world. Thoughts from the room before we go to the next day's events. Briony, then Rachael.
Yeah, going back to What's His Face that I've just read. I thought it was really interesting. It was the worst part of the song for me to read, but I thought it was very interesting that there was a little bit of a description of what to expect for the private VIP after show party. Although I as a woman, I didn't love she's gonna cry out, but it's just her fear. Just kiss that away, she'll be fine. Didn't love that, but I did think it was interesting that they are at least trying to equip them with some idea of what is about to happen.
Yes, Rachael.
I was gonna say, why is some of this where Heracles and Atlas and Jupiter come in? I don't know if that symbolism, especially because the beginning of this is so over the top, very, very traditional. Very conservative sounding wedding. I mean, Heracles, like, even though it's just a statue, he killed his wife. Jupiter, I mean, we've read the Golden Age and the Silver Age. I don't think I'd want either of them showing up in my wedding too much, just for the shenanigans that they get up to.
I don't think you can point at anyone in the Olympian pantheon and go, any of them are great people. I mean, you basically have to write off the entire classical world, otherwise you're, because they're all doing horrible things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, they seem a little more. The beginning seems a lot more conservative than this one passage, naming these people. And maybe also that one song that didn't play it past the first staff, because maybe that was just a little too much for them. And also it directly talks to the bride almost.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I got the impression that all the way through there's an awful lot of, this is what a wedding is leading towards. I got the impression that from a lot of the dances. And I don't know that the court has that kind of conservatism going on in their display, and that sequence, Hercules, etc. That is just description of set dressing in a sense. There's some figures. I don't know how many people are looking closely as to whether that's Hercules or which of the various figures it is. I'm not sure that's the crowd that this show is interested in. I could be wrong. Thoughts. Other thoughts before we go to the barriers. What happens the next day? This is everyone's off. They're off to the after show party. They're dancing away. They're having drinks. There's some more stuff to happen. Some bit of fighting, some formalised fighting is what happens coming next at the barriers. So we've had the formal masque, and I'll tell you what happened to the various people in this wedding. We're going to read pretty much this straight through because we're running out of time. And the barriers is a slightly different kind of thing. It's a sort of mock, stylized combat thing. So we'll read through this. We've got truth and opinion lined up, and an angel, I think, as well. So I'll ask Elizabeth if you can read the opening bit of prose there on the next night. So this is day 2 of solemnization of this wedding.
On the next night, whose solemnity was of barriers, all mention of the former being utterly removed and taken away, there appeared at the lower end of the hall a mist made of delicate perfumes, out of which, a battle being sounded under the stage, did seem to break forth 2 ladies, the one representing truth, the other opinion, but both so alike attired as they could by no note be distinguished. The colour of their garments was blue, their socks white, they were crowned with wreaths of palm, and in their hand each of them sustained a palm bough. These, after the mist was vanished, began to examine each other curiously with their eyes, and approaching the state, the one expostulated the other in this manner.
Who art thou, thus that imitatest my grace, and steps and habits, and habit and resembled face?
Grave time and industry my parents are. My name is Truth, who through the sounds of war, which figure the wise mind discursive fight sight, in mists by nature wrapped, salute the light.
I am that Truth, thou some elusive sprite, whom to my likeness the black sorceress night hath of these dry and empty fumes created.
Best herald of thine own birth, well related. Put me in mind to proof of words and facts in any question this fair hour exacts.
I challenge thee, and fit this time of love, with this position which Truth comes to prove, that the most honored state of man and wife doth far exceed the insociate virgin life.
I take the adverse part, and she that best defends her side, be Truth by all confessed.
It is confirmed. With what an equal brow, to Truth opinions confident, and how, like Truth, her habit shows to sensual eyes. But whosoe'er thou be, in this disguise, clear Truth anon shall strip thee to the heart, and show how mere fantastical thou art. Know then, the first production of things required two from mere one nothing springs, without that not the theme thou gloriest in, the unprofitable virgin, had not been. The golden tree of marriage began in paradise and bore the fruit of man, on whose sweet branches angels sate and sung, and from whose firm root all society sprung. Love, whose strong virtue wrapped heaven's soul in earth, and made a woman glory in his birth, in marriage opens his inflamed breast, and lest in him nature should stifled rest, his genial fire about the world he darts, which lips with lips combines, and hearts with hearts. Marriage love's object is, at whose bright eyes he lights his torches and calls them his skies. For her, he wings his shoulders and doth fly to her white bosom as his sanctuary, in which no lustful finger can profane him, nor any earth with black eclipses wane him. She makes him smile in sorrows, and doth stand twixt him and all wants with her silver hand. In her soft locks his tender feet are tied, and in his fetters he takes worthy pride. Ugh. And as geometricians have approved, that lines and superficies are not moved by their own forces, but do follow still their bodies' motions. So the self-loved will of man or woman should not rule in them, but each with other wear the anademe. Mirrors, though decked with diadems, are not worth if the like forms of things they set not forth. So men or women are worth nothing, either, if either eyes and hearts present not either.
Untouched virginity laugh out to see freedom in fetters placed and urged against thee. What griefs lie groaning on the nuptial bed, what dull society, in what sheets of lead tumble and toss the restless married pair, each oft offended with the other's heir. And whence springs all devouring avarice, but from the cares which out of wedlock rise? And where there is in life's best tempered fires an end set in itself to all desires, a settled, quiet freedom never checked. How far are married lives from this effect? Euripus, that bears ships in all their pride, against roughest winds with violence of his tide, and ebbs and flows 7 times in every day, toils not more turbulent or fierce than they. And then, what rules husbands prescribe their wives? In their eyes' circles they must bound their lives. The moon, when farthest from the sun she shines, is most refulgent. Nearest, most declines. But your poor wives far off must never roam, but waste their beauties near their lords at home. And when their lords range out, at home must hide, like to be begged monopolies of all their pride. When their lords list to feed a serious fit, they must be serious. When to show their wit in jest and laughter, they must laugh and jest. When they wake, wake, and when they rest, rest. And to their wives, men give such narrow scope as if they meant to make them walk on ropes. No tumblers bide more peril of their necks in all their tricks than wives in husbands' checks. Where virgins in their sweet and peaceful state have all things perfect, spin their own free fate, depend on no proud second, are their own center and circle, now and always one, to whose example we do still here named one God, one nature, but one world framed, one sun, one moon, one element of fire, so of the rest one king that doth inspire soul to all bodies in their royal sphere.
And where is marriage more declared than there? Is there a band more strict than that doth tie the soul and body in such unity? Subjects to sovereigns, doth one mind display in the one's obedience and the other's sway? Believe it, marriage suffers no compare when both estates are valued as they are. The virgin were a strange and stubborn thing, would longer stay a virgin than to bring herself fit use and profit in a make.
How she doth err, and the whole heaven mistake. Look how a flower that close in closest garden grows, hid from the rude cattle, bruised with no plows, which the air doth stroke, sun strengthen, showers shoot higher, in many youths and many maids, it many youths and many maids desire. The same, when cropped by cruel hand is withered, no youth at all, no maidens have desired. So a virgin, while untouched she doth remain, is dear to hers. But when with body's stain her chaster flower is lost, she leaves to appear or sweet or young. Men, or sweet to young men or to maidens dear. That conquest then may crown me in this war. Virgins, O virgins, fly from Hymen far.
Virgins, oh virgins, to sweet Hymen yield, for as a lone vine in a naked field never extols her branches, never bears ripe grapes, but with a headlong heaviness wears her tender body, and her highest spruit is quickly leveled with her fading root, by whom no husbandmen, no youths will dwell, but if by fortune she be married well to the elm, her husband, many husbandmen and many youths inhabit by her, then so whilst a virgin doth, untouched, abide, all unmanured, she grows old with her pride. But when to equal wedlock, in fit time, her fortune and endeavor lets her climb, dear to her love and parents she is held, virgins, oh virgins, to sweet Hymen yield.
These are but words. Hast thou a knight will try by stroke of arms this simple verity?
To that high proof I would have dared thee, Elias, straight fetch champions for the bride and me.
I the like will do for virginity.
And Sarah, take up the description of what happens next.
Here they both descended the hall, where at the lower end a march being sounded with drums and fifes, there entered, led forth by the Earl of Nottingham, who was Lord High Constable for that night, and the Earl of Worcester, our Marshal, 16 knights armed with pikes and swords, their plumes and colours carnation and white, all richly accoutred, and making their honours to the state as they marched by in pairs, were all ranked on one side of the hall. They placed 16 others like accoutred for riches and arms, only that their colours were varied to watchet and white, who were by the same earls led up, and passing in like manner by the state, placed on the opposite side. By this time, the bar being brought up, truth proceeded.
Now join, and if this varied trial fail, to make my truth in wedlock's praise prevail, I will retire, and in more power appear, to cease this strife and make our question clear.
Whereat Opinion, insulting, followed her with this speech.
I do. It were not safe thou shouldst abide. This speaks thy name, with shame to quit thy side.
And here the champions on both sides addressed themselves for fight. First single after 3 to 3, and performed it with that alacrity and vigour, as if Mars himself had been to triumph before Venus and invented a new masque. When on a sudden, the last 6 having scarcely ended, a striking light seemed to fill all the hall, and out of it an angel, or messenger of glory, appearing.
Princes, attend a tale of height and wonder. Truth is descended in a second thunder, and now will greet you with judicial state to grace the nuptial part in this debate. The end with reconciled hands these wars. Upon her head she wears a crown of stars, through which her orient hair waves to her waist, by which believing mortals hold her fast. And in those golden cords are carried even, till with her breath she blows them up to heaven. She wears a robe enchased with eagle's eyes, to signify her sight in mysteries. Upon each shoulder sits a milk-white dove, and at her feet do witty serpents move. Her spacious arms do reach from east to west, and you may see her heart shine through her breast. Her right hand holds a sun with burning rays, her left a curious bunch of golden keys, with which heaven's gates she locketh and displays. A crystal mirror hangeth at her breast, by which men's consciences are searched and dressed. And her coach wheels hypocrisy lie on her coach wheels hypocrisy lies racked, and squint-eyed slander with vain glory backed. Her bright eyes burn to dust, in which shines fate. An angel ushers her triumphant gate, variant spelling of gate. Oh, sorry. An angel ushers her triumphant gate, whilst with her fingers fans of stars she twists, and with them beats back error, clad in mists. Eternal unity behind her shines, that fire and water, earth and air combines. Her voice is like a trumpet loud and shrill, which bids all sounds in earth and heaven be still. And see, descended from her chariot now, in this related pomp, she visits you.
Honor to all that honor nuptials, to whose fair lot in justice now it falls, that this my counterfeit be here disclosed, who for virginity hath herself opposed. Nor, though my brightness do undo her charms, let these her knights think that their equal arms are wronged therein. For valor wins applause, that dares but to maintain the weaker cause. And princes, see, 'tis mere opinion that in truth's forced robe for truth hath gone. Her gaudy colors, pieced with many folds, show what uncertainties she ever holds. Banish adulterate truth, and never dare with proud maids praise to press where nuptials are. And champions, since you see the truth I held, to sacred Hymenaei reconciled yield. nor so to yield think it the least despite. It is a conquest to submit a right. This royal judge of our contentation will prop, I know, what I have undergone, to whose right sacred highness I resign, lo, at his feet, this starry crown of mine, to show his rule and judgment is divine. These doves to him I consecrate withal, to note his innocence without spot or gall. These serpents for his wisdom, and these rays to show his piercing splendor. These bright keys, designing power to ope the ported skies, and speak their glories to his subjects' eyes. Lastly, this heart, with which all hearts be true, and truth in him make treason ever rue.
And with this they were led forth hand in hand, reconciled as in triumph, and thus the solemnities ended. You can live in concord, live to fight another day. So that ended. So it was a great show. At the beginning of this, I was going, I wasn't really that aware of what these barriers things were and what was going on in them, but it's just a mini debate play. There's a couple of people, they come on, they have a debate, and then there's a big fight. This is great. We can do something with this. And then you read it and I went, it's not great on so many levels, of which I'm hoping there are other barriers that do this but better and less horrid. Didn't enjoy that at all. Just got the impression the room was just wading through treacle there, just going, let's get to the end. Anyone want to throw in any thoughts on that? I'm liking the form. I like the idea of debate having fightness. I really like that. That's got me interested in now looking into this as a cheap, an interesting, and cheap form of material to use in the future. Anyway, Rachael.
How Briony before said the songs are kind of contradictory. It's like from the beginning of this contradicts the end almost. It's like all these symbols of virginity and virtue are showing up depending on the color of the rose, the roses that are strewn all about here. And then at the end, it's like all this virginity stuff that we told you was good. Now it's bad because you're married. So do what we say. And then the comparison of like the vines, it being fallow or like ground fallow. There's like, eco-feminists want to come into the chat, and don't compare those things, Also the stigma still today about women who choose not to have children or can't have children, those types of things, like the judgment towards that, or people who choose not to marry, or even if we take in a modern context, obviously they weren't thinking about this back then, but like people who aren't heterosexual, and who choose to adopt or don't want to adopt or can't because laws restrict their ability to adopt, like in the US that tries to make it difficult to adopt if you're a single parent, because that was a long time ago the way that people would, when gay marriage was not legal, that they would adopt their lover.
Yeah, I mean it's working its way through all of those marriage and tropes and ideas, and of course this is part of a marriage event. This is part of two people got married, and this is part of their celebrations, and it is that there's this moralizing that's being thrown at them throughout the whole thing at length and in detail. Briony, then Sarah.
I don't know if it's just the way that this has left me feeling, but was it two people or was it a person and a woman?
Mm-hmm. Sarah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this was the thing that was laid on the day after that most people didn't come to because they were hungover. Like, it was like, oh, we need to do something the next day. It's mainly going to be the parents because all the kids are going to be hungover. So let's just put something on. Let's just put on a nice debate for the parents, and we'll talk about both sides of marriage. It's rough for the women, rough for the men, and all the seniors will nod their heads sagely and go, oh yeah. And no one will actually really be paying much attention. I don't know. It's just really tedious.
Yeah, well, like the Masque, I don't think anyone was there for the dialogue.
No.
I don't think anyone gave her.
No.
I listened to any of it. I suspect they didn't. I
I
think
wasn't
they
there
talked
for the
through it,
dialogue, to be honest.
and they ate something, and were drinking, and then the fight happens. And clearly, these are long, complicated fight things that are going on, and I don't know how choreographed they are. Are they choreographed like dances, or are some of them actually involve actual jeopardy? Because it's talking about there's one-on-one, and then there's three, and I don't know if that's three separate one-on-ones or whether that's three people at the same time, and then they talk about the final six. So I'm trying to figure out the maths of how that actually works. But I'm thinking that goes on for ages. I know the speeches felt like they went on for ages, but it was only about 10 minutes. And again, how much of it actually got performed? I think Ben Jonson would complain and tell us if it didn't all get performed. But there was sort of this almost nice idea of opinion versus truth, and I was going, oh, it's fake news versus and I thought, oh, we can do something with this, and then it didn't, and it just no.
I thought it was almost going to turn into like one of those poetry battles, which can be really like compelling. I was thinking, oh, this would be quite a good way to stage this, but then it just didn't go there.
It just didn't do anything for any of us on so many levels, and I think we'll just step away from that. I think we're into sort of the remaining time. I'm just going to briefly give you an update on the marriage. So so the bride and groom, they're separated after the marriage. They for a few years. The marriage is not a success. Doesn't go well. There's an annulment several years later, and Lady Frances marries someone else, and as Elizabeth pointed out, is implicated in a murder plot. So there's some interesting things going on in the whole soap opera life of this court. That's I'm sure in the future we'll get into more. We're just laying down a few tracks here. So this okay, this marriage just annuls and they separate, and it's perhaps not a very big thing in their lives, but they go on and do other things, and but I'm sure the after show party was cool. This is our third Ben Jonson Masque. Each has been problematic in their own different ways. I mean, it's like which area will we get worried about next? Is this coming from Ben, or is this coming from the people commissioning the work, or is it a mixture of the two? Where do we jump? So I'm not going to go exactly around the room for final thoughts. I mean, with the spectacle of the Masque itself, we did enjoy a lot of that, and there were the odd bits where we're going, but it was really interesting. Lynn.
Yeah, masks, the spectacle of the mask, the whole phenomenon of masks are almost sort of surreal to me. The amount of time and money and talent that was expended on these things, and each one of them was only performed once. So the kind of conspicuous consumption aspect of it is really striking to me. And the fact that we go on for, probably with all the choreography and everything, several hours in praise of marriage and how it's just the highest calling, and it's just what men and women were made for, and heaven approves of all of this. And even if you weren't able to predict the future, yes, for the union of basically a boy and a girl who maybe barely know each other and are being married for political and dynastic reasons, not because they love each other. It's just but we're going to try to ignore all of that and just glorify everything and exalt everything. And it's kind of like Rachel's observation. I don't know if I went on Hercules and Jove at my marriage. They weren't very good husbands. It's like, we're just going to ignore all of that and just make everything really, really glorious. But we're only going to do it once. And if you weren't there, you missed it. And I just... sort of the class politics and everything that's involved in the whole phenomenon of masks is just really weird to me.
How do you sustain an evening's entertainment when it has basically there's no narrative really there beyond the event itself? And I've sort of been watching various fashion shows and things, and things that might sort of have a modern analog with this, of going, how do you sustain interest on a effectively a narrative-less field? And it's a really interesting area of artistic endeavour. How do you sustain that kind of level of interest?
I kind of think of Las Vegas floor shows or Cirque du Soleil, something with these huge production values. Of course, those get performed over and over again, and the ticket prices are astronomically high. This just seems the conspicuous consumption aspect of this is really troubling to me.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of Masques, is just because the obscene amounts of money being spent. I mean, hundreds of thousands of pounds in modern day, production values. Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, from the conspicuous consumption aspect of it, it's totally indefensible. The fact that they were only done once is completely indefensible. I love the idea of masks because I'm really into the style of them, like the costume, the sets, all those flat painted wooden clouds. And globes with doors open and people coming out of them. I am just totally into that. I'm totally into it the way I'm into opera. I don't ever watch an opera for the plot. Ever. I'm also fairly conventional in my operatic taste. I don't tend to watch operas that are kind of set in a 21st century prison. Yeah, because it's like, I don't want that from opera. What I want from opera is fantastic costumes and fantastic singing. It's the same when I go to the ballet as well. I want beautiful music, I want stunning scenery and costumes, and I want exquisite dancing. And it's like, I think because we're all theatre people, it's this thing of, what do you do if there's no plot? Well, most ballets, with a few notable exceptions, they don't really have a lot of plot. But they are, nevertheless, depending on the production, like really quite compelling. And I think that's the way you have to look at a masque. And to be honest, I don't really care. I don't honestly care about the words at all. I mean, they could be singing 80s pop songs for all I care. If they're dancing beautifully and they're dressed in like this amazing, sumptuous garb and they're singing beautifully, and the whole spectacle of it, then they've hooked me in because I really just love the visuals of that kind of thing.
And the other thing is, the social aspect as well. When I was talking about, the Met Gala and things like that. We have all these people who know they're it, who are there to be seen, who are there to demonstrate their wealth, who are there to meet their friends or their enemies, who are doing all these things. And who have the opportunity to dance as well. They're involved in the production. A lot of them. The performers are courtiers, and also there's a part of the masque where you can get up and dance as well. So it's like at a wedding. There is the opportunity to be involved, and actually how much rigorous attention do you need to give to all of it? I mean, we haven't got the music here. We don't know what it sounds like. The music would have been amazing, as well as the spectacle and the pure ooh and the ah of what the lighting is doing. I mean, it's, once again, we're reading all the speeches like they matter.
Yeah.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
Briony.
I don't know, because weddings themselves are this kind of public spectacle, ceremony, tedious, long, and it's like a wedding double feature. I don't know. I like the dancing bit at the end with a modern wedding where you can do your own thing on the dance floor, and there are no big, that you do the speeches at the start, and then the rest of the night is just dancing. That's the format that I like, and that's the part of a wedding that I like. I don't like the sitting around being lectured at about how women are inferior and getting married to a man will make everything better. And that, like I say, this was like that 2 or 3 times over. And even with some sparkles and some jazz hands and a lovely dance routine, I don't know, it's not holding my attention.
Elizabeth, then Rachel, and then I really should close the session.
I have to agree with Briony there. I was just thinking about the other masks we've done. We've done the Masque of Blackness and we've done the Masque of Beauty. And I was thinking, like, where does this rank so far for me? And I was like, it's near the bottom, because I know that a lot of the words are not really designed to be listened to. I think Jonson had another life for the words when he printed it, when he had the text printed up. I think that would give it a kind of a new life. But I just found it, the word that Briony used that I loved the most was tedious. It just towards the end just started to drag. And you didn't find that in the Masque of Blackness or the Masque of Beauty. I thought those ones seemed to kind of muddle along. They kind of ticked along okay. But this one, it kind of seemed to take a dive. After we had the dancing men in the socks and the dancing women with men with the swords and all the dancing ladies and all that procession sort of kind of died down, we just moved into this era of tedium.
Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, like, just the amount of sexism and stuff like that, and like modernly, how people like Joe Manchin are, trying to push back about women's reproductive rights, but also all the talking, not how Briony said the dance. What did we ever have food? Did these guests ever eat? Like, where's the cake? I said it at the beginning. Where's the cake? But I know they talked about the orgies, which means feasts of food at some point, but there was not enough description of the food for me. That would have made me happy, a little happier.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to close on, is that I think the element that I've really enjoyed, I genuinely enjoyed out of this, is actually just the descriptions. And, when the stage directions are better, more enjoyable than the actual performance of the text, there's something really weird going on. We found this sometimes with Lord Mayor shows as well, that we really enjoyed the shade as well, that the backbiting and the comments, the score settling, the behind the scenes stuff. And I really feel with Masques and all of this court stuff, we're going to get a lot more interested in the court and the soap opera of the court than perhaps we're going to get about these actual performances. Briony, do you have something quickly to throw in before I close?
Yeah, just really quick. Just out of the speeches and stuff, I think I was very fortunate in what I got to read today, because with it being a song, it had a real nice flow to it, although I didn't appreciate a lot of the content of it.
And on that note, we're going to close the session. We will return at some point to some more masks. We're going to pepper them in occasionally, every so often. That is all for these wonderful readers, for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Where perhaps a few Italian herbs picked up and made into a salad may find sweeter acceptance than all the most nourishing and sound meats of the world.